Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's a pleasure to take part in this debate. As I've said to many previous transport ministers, I have 10 railway stations, the largest port in the country, and an international airport in my constituency. So therefore we deserve better service from the department than we've received in recent years. Madam Deputy Speaker, there's no doubt that the Northern Powerhouse has been a focus for government, and it is delivering some major investment into the north of England, and we should be fair to the government and acknowledge that. But, yes, happily give way.
He's making an excellent point. Would he join me in expressing appreciation for the recent investment committed into my constituency, the Middlewich Bypass, over 20 years in the waiting, which will not only relieve congestion in that area, but also open up land for over 2,000 jobs, new employment into the area.
I thank my honourable friend for that intervention. I'm very happy to support that, and I think, as I mentioned, we should recognise that there has been very significant investment in some parts. And my own constituency, the Minister of State for Transport visited in August to open formally open the A160 upgrade, which gives access to the Port of Immingham. But, of course, the problem is, of course, you can have a very nice access and you can leave Immingham, but, of course, you then hit the very congested A180, which the last sort of 15-20 miles into Grimsby and Cleethorpes is actually a dual carriageway before you get onto the M180. The point I make about the Northern Powerhouse is, yes, it has attracted significant investment, but I think we should also acknowledge that many of the plans are for investment between the larger cities of the north, Leeds, Liverpool, Manchester and the like, and there has been some neglect, I think, of Humberside, dare I use that word, which is derided in northern Lincolnshire, but in particular the south bank of the Humber, which is desperately in need of a number of important things. And I think the devolution argument is centred around around the metropolitan areas and metro mayors and the like. And in my own county of Lincolnshire, the devolution deal, which was on offer this time last year, did eventually collapse, as indeed my honourable friend mentioned his has done in Cumbria. And in the north of the county, where there are two unitary authorities which serve parts of my constituency, North Lincolnshire and North East Lincolnshire, they both supported the devolution deal. So it's quite unfair that we should then somehow be dropped out of potential investment into the area because the deal was thwarted by other councils. And if the government, and I've said this many times, really believe in devolution and metro mayors and unitary authorities, then they should get on and establish them. That might be somewhat contrary to the devolution argument in some respects, but I've repeatedly said this. Let's get on with it. Unitary authorities are the way forward. They will release more resources for other investment. The big ask in transport terms, which is not directly the responsibility of the Minister, I acknowledge, from my own constituency, is a direct rail service from Grimsby and Cleethorpes through Scunthorpe to the main line and onward to King's Cross. In days gone by, British Rail did operate a service, but they abandoned it in 1992. And although it's fair to say that the privatised networks that we have now do actually provide a better service from my constituency to London, there is in effect an hourly service. The fact that you have to change at either Doncaster or Newark is off-putting, and it's particularly detrimental to many of the businesses that are becoming established in the area. Open access operators have shown an interest, and I would urge the department to consider greater involvement of open access operators such as the very successful Hull Trains and Grand Central, who operate services out of King's Cross. The Secretary of State gave a much more favourable answer to being open to open access operators when he responded at the last question time. We've got the Brigg line, which is worthy of a mention, which has a Saturdays-only service. Now, the people in Worksop, Retford, Gainsborough and Brigg itself would love to be able to get to Cleethorpes on a Saturday, and I can see the chairman of the Transport Select Committee, who I travelled that line with a year or two ago. But it is a nonsense to have all of that infrastructure there for a service that operates on 1 day a week. Finally, could I mention HS2? I've been a supporter of HS2, and I recognise that we do need a new north-south railway line, and if you're going to build one, you obviously build it to the highest modern standards. But the reality is, when we're talking about delivery of a project in 2033, would it actually matter if it was 2035 or 6? And in the meantime, we could release some extra funding for some major projects, perhaps a few bypasses in one or two of our constituencies wouldn't go amiss, and certainly be more valued by many of our constituents who miss out on the HS2 project. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, I can see time's running out. The Minister is an influential man, and I know he's sympathetic to the needs of Northern Lincolnshire, so I'm hoping for some positive response later in the debate.